No data? No problem. With the lowest data rates in the country, have extra fun with SLT Extra GB.
For more details, call 1212.
It's official. The Attorney General informs court that he won't represent the IGP and Hemasiri Fernando. We are clean. Deputy Minister of Petroleum Resources Development whitewashes Sipetco fuel. In the name of the country, the Prime Minister gives confirmation over his testimony before the PSC. Officials succeed where platers failed. ICC announces Sri Lankan presence at the World Cup finale. All this and much more coming up on First at 9 this Friday the 12th of July 2019.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9.
මුහුණ සති කීපයකට කලින් Fair and Lovely men ගෑවට පස්සේ මාක්ස් අඩු වෙලා ෆෑනස් වැඩි වෙලා.
මාක්ස් අඩු කරලා ඔයාගේ ෆෑනස් ස්ටෑන්ඩඩ් එක වැඩි කරගන්න. Fair and Lovely men anti marks cream.
Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Well, a very good evening and welcome to First at 9 on AdaDerana 24, Sri Lanka's news channel. I'm Katharina Chang. Now on to our top story tonight. The Supreme Court commenced hearing the 12 petitions filed against the Inspector General of Police Pujit Jayasundara, who is sent on mandatory leave, and former Defence Secretary Hemasiri Fernando for failing to prevent the Easter Sunday attacks. Speaking at today's proceedings, Attorney General Dappala de Oliveira said that he will not represent the two respondents. A 7-member judge bench of the Supreme Court today commenced hearing the petitions filed by 12 parties against IGP Pujit Jayasundara and former Defence Secretary Hemasiri Fernando. The petitioners claimed that the duo violated their fundamental rights by failing to prevent the Easter Sunday attacks. The judge bench is headed by Chief Justice Jayanta Jayasuriya, with Justices Sisira Diabru, Buwanekalu Vihare, Priyantha Jayawardena, Prasanna Jayawardena, LTB Dehidenia and Murdu Fernando completing the bench. During today's hearing, Attorney General Dappala de Oliveira informed court that he will not be representing the IGP and the former Defence Secretary Fernando, who are respondents in the petitions. The AG stated that he will only be representing himself and DIG of Special Range B. Disanayaka, who is also named among the respondents. He pointed out that most petitions call for criminal investigations against the IGP and former Defence Secretary Fernando over failure to prevent the Easter attacks, and it has already happened. After considering the facts presented before court, the 7-member judge bench, chaired by the Chief Justice, ordered the respondents to submit objections, if any, with regard to the petitions before the 18th of July. The court also ordered counter-objections to be filed, if any, before the 23rd of July. The case will be taken up again on the 25th, and the petitions will be taken up for hearing once again on the 25th and 26th of this month. Deputy Minister of Petroleum Resources Development Dr. Anoma Gamage brushed aside reports of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation supplying substandard 92-octane fuel to the market. Speaking to media today, she said that the particular test samples obtained by the Consumer Affairs Authority came from fueling stations of Lanka Indian Oil Company. National Movement for Consumer Rights Protection, however, point out that the fuel in question came via a CPC distribution centre. The relevant tests yielded 90.5 octane for 92 octane petrol.
The National Movement for Consumer Rights Protection recently revealed that petrol 92 octane sold in the market is not up to standard. Its chairman, Ranjit Vitanage, stated that following a complaint received at the Consumer Affairs Authority, a 92 octane sample sold by Lanka IOC was checked at the lab of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, where it was revealed that the real composition is 90.5 octane. The issue, as he pointed out, is that although these samples had been obtained from LIOC sheds, the petrol had been distributed to them by a Sri Lanka Petroleum Corporation distribution centre. Speaking to media today, however, Deputy Minister of Petroleum Resources Development Dr. Anoma Gamage cleared the air by saying that a series of tests were performed on fuel samples obtained from CPC storage facilities.
Now there was a press paper article saying that the CPC has imported low-grade petrol 92 octane, which the complaint has been done by the Consumer Affairs Authority, but we got to know that these samples had been taken from a IOC shed because we don't do Euro 3. And this particular test samples has been given for petrol as well as Euro 3 and Euro 4. And I have instructed all our storage tanks to take samples from all the storage tanks. That's at Kolonnava, Sapugaskanda and Muturajawela. And we have done the test on Monday itself and found out that testing reveals that the octane percentage is more than 92. Some were 92.3 and 92.4. I have instructed to take samples, at least 5% samples from all the sheds island-wide to stop this, if something like this happens. And also, I have written to the IOC requesting them to allow us to take samples from their sheds so that we can maintain the quality of the petrol. We have never imported low-grade petrol and we will not do so in the future.
The Parliament today heavily focused on the alleged irregularities within the Ministry of Health. Several parliamentarians expressed views while referring to the Auditor General's report on irregularities within the ministry, which was released in April this year. Is this good governance? Auditor General in his report says that there were many irregularities at the Ministry of Health.
They are purchasing medicine from Russia for 95,000 rupees instead of buying it for 45,000 rupees. It is the brother-in-law of the chairman of State Pharmaceuticals Corporation who distributes this particular medicine in Sri Lanka on behalf of a certain pharmaceutical company. The government didn't come into power to do all this. The government is paying 200 million rupees each month, claiming that they're going to take over the Dr. Neville Fernando Hospital. Although they claim that this hospital can be taken over under the purview of the government, there is no way of doing that. The Auditor General's report mentions about many irregularities, including misuse of ministry vehicles. It states that the Minister's office used 16 cars, while the Deputy Minister's office uses 8.
වාහන කළබනාකරණය පිළිබඳ විශේෂ විගණන වාර්තාව ජනතා බදු මුදලින් රුපියල් බිලියන 5කට අධික මුදල් ප්‍රමාණයක් නිවිල් ප්‍රනාන්දු මහතාගේ පෞද්ගලික රෝහලට ලබා දී නැත. රාජ්‍ය ආයතනයක් මේකට සල්ලි වෙන් කරලා තියෙන්නේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුව අනුමත කරපු මුදල් වෙන් කරලා තියෙනවා. මම ඒක පිළිගන්නවා. හැබැයි මේ දැන් තමුන්නාදලගේ පුද්ගලික රෝහලකට කරනවා රාජ්‍යයට ගන්න මේක රාජ්‍ය ආයතන. මේ තියෙන රාජ්‍ය ආයතන කියලා ගහලා ලියම රාජ්‍යයට ගන්න මොකද්ද තමුන්නාසලා කරලා තියෙන කටයුත්ත කියලා අපි අහන්නේ. අපේ බෝඩ් එකක් නිරන් කරන්නේ. අපිනේ රන් කරන්නේ රෝහල. ඒක තියෙන්නේ ලංකා බැංකුවට උගස් කළා. ඒකේ අපේ ණය ටික ඉවරන දවසට තමයි අයිතිය හම්බ වෙන්නේ. කෝප් කමිටුව හැටියට කරුණු පැහැදිලි කරද්දී අපට තේරුණා තත්ත්වෙන් බාල ඖෂධ විශාල ප්‍රමාණයක් වෙළඳ පොලේ තියෙනවා කියලා.
Rumours of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe being willing to testify before the Parliamentary Select Committee probing the Easter attacks turns out to be true. Delivering a special statement at Temple Trees today, the Premier himself claimed that he will go before the committee as anything other than that would be a betrayal of the country.
The no confidence motion against myself and the cabinet of ministers was defeated in Parliament with a majority. I met with security officials as soon as I heard of the Easter Sunday attacks and instructed them to take necessary action. However, there was a problem, which is the failure of intelligence information being communicated to relevant individuals. The Security Council was not at all focused on these attacks. We first went about arresting all the terrorists, which was successfully concluded. We then appointed a Parliamentary Select Committee to look into why intelligence information was not properly communicated. Although there are criticism against the committee, the judiciary has accepted it to be within the legal framework. I too have been summoned before the Select Committee. I will go before the committee to divulge all the information I know. We want to lay the foundation where such terror activities will not take place again. Otherwise, it will be a betrayal of the country. We will find the truth through the Parliamentary Select Committee. There is also a court case being heard regarding the attacks. There too truth will be revealed. We're not trying to target an individual or a political party by uncovering the truth. We only hope to find out the shortcomings and rectify them so such incidents will not happen in the future. We also hope to pass several new laws to face global terrorism. We expect to work closely with the international intelligence units as well.
A decision has been reached by the 7 remaining Muslim parliamentarians of the government to take up their positions once again following a meeting last evening. Speaking to AdaDerana, MP Amir Ali said that a date for the swearing-in is yet to be announced.
On the 3rd of June, a surprise announcement was made by Muslim ministers of their decision to resign from their positions upon the backlash the then minister Rishad Badiuddin received, with allegations being levelled against him over having links to Easter Sunday attackers. 9 ministers resigned altogether, with ministers Rauf Hakim, Rishad Badiuddin, Kabir Hashim, Abdul Halim, as well as state ministers Amir Ali Shihabdin, Ali Zahir Maulana, Faisal Kazim and HMM Haris stepping down. Furthermore, Deputy State Minister Abdullah Maroof too tendered his resignation from his portfolio. On the 19th of June, however, ministers Kabir Hashim and Abdul Halim took up the positions they relinquished once more. It was only last evening a decision was reached by the remaining cadre of former Muslim ministers to take up their portfolios again following a meeting chaired by MP A.H.M. Fauzi. A group of Muslim parliamentarians from the UPFA too were present for the discussions. Thereby, MPs Rauf Hakim, Rishad Badiuddin, Kabir Hashim, Abdul Halim, HMM Haris, Amir Ali Shihabdin, Ali Zahir Maulana and Faisal Kazim are due to be sworn in to their positions.
IGP has informed the Honourable Speaker that there is none of Muslim parliamentarian, minister or parliamentarian, not to involve this Easter blast and this terrorist act. So, thereafter, Honourable Rishad Badiuddin also given a very detailed evidence to the Parliament Select Committee. He is explained that he is not involving anything and the country and every people must aware on that. So thereafter, there is a request made by the Venerable Mahanayaka Theres and His Excellency the President and the Prime Minister and the party leaders and our political friends are requested us to take the portfolio again. We have decided yesterday under the Honourable Fauzi go for a detailed discussion. So we have decided yesterday we have to take back the portfolio again.
The private member's bill to abolish death penalty by UMP parliamentarian Bandula Lal Bandarigoda was tabled in Parliament today. The bill to abolish capital punishment comes at a time when President Maithripala Sirisena's move to sign death warrants on 4 convicted drug traffickers continue to divide opinion.
Leader of the House, Lakshman Kiriyalla, tabled a private member's bill at Parliament today, which was presented by UNP parliamentarian Bandulal Bandarigoda, titled Bill to Abolish the Death Penalty. As per the bill, any mention of the death penalty must be amended as imprisonment for life across all acts. We cannot categorize people who are sentenced to death on their crimes such as drug trafficking and so on. It will not be the same if we sentence at least one innocent man to death. I see it as a crime on our part. I hope we will be able to pass this bill very soon. Meanwhile, Deputy Leader of the United National Party, Minister Sajith Premadasa, expressed these views regarding the death penalty in Casbah yesterday. I do not see any fault in sentencing drug kingpins who operate from inside prisons itself to death. I would like to ask those who speak against the death sentence as to how they would otherwise protect school children from this drug menace.
The Sri Lanka Navy intercepted a foreign vessel carrying around 60 kilograms of narcotics in the seas near the Galle Harbour. Speaking at a media briefing held in Colombo today, Navy media spokesperson Lieutenant Commander Isru Surya Bandara said that they suspect the narcotics haul to be heroin and further investigations are being carried out by the Police Narcotics Division.
On the 10th of July, Sri Lanka Navy observed a suspicious Sri Lankan multi-day fishing trawler. We found the substances. We suspected that to be samples of heroin or the hashish with onboard 4 crew members. So that suspected vessel, we talked to the Galle port and handed over to the Police Narcotics Division for the investigation. Again, yesterday, the Sri Lanka Navy could apprehend another vessel without a flag state, and there was no registration marking on the hull, and that wasn't a Sri Lankan boat, but we suspect that to be a foreign fishing boat. While we are searching the vessel, we found that suspicious substances weighed of around 60 kilograms, and we suspect that to be illegal narcotic substances, probably that may be heroin. We apprehended that boat and we took under the custody of Navy along with 9 crew members, and we took the vessel to the Colombo port for further investigation. And during the preliminary investigation, with the available evidences and the records, we suspect that there might be a kind of connection between these 2 incidents which happened yesterday as well as on the 10th. The further investigation will be conducted by the Police Narcotics Division.
Well, we will have more news for you, but before that, we will cross over to a short commercial break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. Sri Lanka is exploring the possibility of issuing a 10-year samurai bond under the provisions of the Active Liability Management Act before the election period begins. This decision is taken after the Parliament recently gave the go-ahead for the central bank to raise up to 480 billion rupees outside the 2019 budget requirements. Speaking at the 4th Monetary Policy Review meeting for this year, Central Bank Governor Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy ruled out dollar-denominated international sovereign bond issuances during the remainder of the year, following 2 successful issuances of the kind.
There were indications of you going to the international capital market for the third time this year. Any idea of what sort of issuance it will be?
Yeah. So we won't do another international dollar-denominated international sovereign bond. We've done 2. In terms of an endorsement of the strength of the macro fundamentals, the fact that we were able to raise this $2 billion US, 10-year issuance was 30 basis points less than the price in March, and the 5-year one was 50 basis points less. So that clearly the reflection that the basic fundamentals are still okay. We got parliamentary approval last week, I think it was, to do an operation under ALMA. As you know, there is now approval to raise up to the equivalent of 480 billion rupees, domestically or abroad. We are considering the option of doing another operation under ALMA to raise money for liability management. Because when one goes into an election phase, one doesn't know how long it will take before we can go to the markets again. So this is why we did 2 bond issuances now, which has hopefully covered us well into next year. And if we do an ALMA on top of that, then I think we'll be well placed in terms of having a comfortable buffer in terms of meeting our external obligations well into next year.
What's the most likely avenue? Is it like a panda bond or a samurai bond?
Well, we are going to Tokyo later this month to explore the possibility of a samurai bond, but we'll have to see. I mean, we are agnostic. It'll depend on cost and tenor. It would not be very wise to borrow anything with less than 10-year tenor right now. And also the benchmark for us is the yield curve of the dollar-denominated international sovereign bond. So if the all-in cost is inside that, then it's worth considering.
And are you hoping to raise the entire 480 billion?
No. That is about 2.5 billion or so dollars. We don't need that amount. I mean, that 480 billion would be both domestic and foreign mobilization.
So samurai bond, any idea how much you are looking to raise?
It really would depend on the market conditions.
Chairman of the Tourism Promotion Bureau, Kishu Gomez, warns that everyone, including those who aren't part of the tourism sector, must come together to ensure the revival of the industry in the aftermath of the Easter Sunday attacks. Sri Lanka Tourism is spending close to 1 billion rupees for a global PR campaign to be worked off with the marketing campaign. The 46th Asian Region Training and Development Organization International Conference is to be held during September in Colombo. The conference themed Shaping a Sustainable Future will be held from 23rd to 25th of September, focusing on enabling technology, sustainability practices, developing a new generation and future workforce, coaching and mentoring, transformational leadership, CEO forum and women empowerment.
What we have to now do is to regain confidence from the potential travelers and other stakeholders who have tourism interest in Sri Lanka. So to be able to do that, we've done many things so far without the help of any expert organization, but soon JWT, J. Walter Thompson, one of the largest creative agencies in the world, will be embarking on a PR campaign trying to instill the right sentiments, to create the right perception for Sri Lanka. And together with that, we will also run a marketing campaign covering our target markets. For those 2 activities, will be investing almost ₹1 billion. We had 30 countries issuing travel advisories, and most countries by now have softened those travel advisories, and that includes, other than Russia, all the other target markets that we are getting the numbers from. And the moment the state of emergency is lifted, I'm sure those countries will further elevate our level over the next several months' time, few months' time. In fact, we will be able to recover to a desired level. Beyond that, we have to obviously compete against the other countries in order to keep developing. Given that tourism has to be the number one revenue generator for the country, it's everyone's responsibility, everyone's accountability, everyone's obligation to ensure that they do something in order to keep the industry growing, at least with a smile, so that they will feel that they are in a country that is conducive for tourism development. I think we need to go to that extent and create that culture in our country. And if you don't create that culture, don't blame the politicians, we will not be able to raise heads.
Shares rose for the fourth straight session today to a more than 12-week closing high, a day after the central bank kept its key policy rates steady. The Asia Price Index gained 0.16% to 5,569.94. Market turnover was 365 million rupees, below this year's daily average. We now have a brief report on how the markets performed during the week.
During the week, the ASPI gained 1%, mainly due to price gains in counters such as LOLC Holdings, Dialog Asiata and Lanka RX Finance. Meanwhile, the S&P SL20 increased by 1.3%. The average daily turnover for the week was down from last week to 425 million rupees. Diversified sector recorded the highest sector turnover during the week, whilst the second highest was seen in banks, finance and insurance sector. Furthermore, foreigners remained active for the week, closing as net sellers, where foreign sales accounted for 41% of the total weekly turnover. A net foreign outflow of nearly 363 million rupees was recorded for the week. This resulted the year-to-date net foreign outflow to increase to 7.2 billion rupees. Out of the weekly turnover, crossings accounted for nearly 23%, which was a lower proportion than last week.
The Sri Lankan rupee ended at 177 rupees and 21 cents against the US dollar today. Now here's a look at your forex rates for the day. Back to one of our local news now. Government Medical Officers Association is adamant that if the medical officers transfer list is allegedly arbitrarily prepared by Minister of Health Dr. Rajda Senaratne is released today, they will engage in an island-wide trade union action for Monday. Deputy Secretary of the association, Dr. Navin D'Souza, brought the matter to light while addressing a media briefing in Colombo today.
The General Committee meeting held to discuss about the new tax policy introduced by the government and how it affects to the membership. It reveals that doctors also considered as the businessmen. So we want to verify and inform to the relevant officers and the government that the professional should have to treat in a professional manner. Other one is the Minister Raj Senaratne is trying to manipulate the post-intern list, which is the first appointments given to the doctors, by removing the Northeast list, which is an incentive to retain the professionals in the rural sector. In haphazard manners, the Director Medical Services is trying to manipulate the system and trying to destroy the structure while putting the post-intern list without concurrence. So the PSC very clearly guided to the ministry to not to publish post-intern list without concurrence with the transfer board. Also, the PSC and the Health Secretary agreed to maintain the Northeast transfer list till 2020 and formulate a new mechanism after 2020 as the difficult station list.
Young entrepreneurs and politicians came together recently to hammer out issues faced by the country and to determine a way forward. During a seminar titled The Solution, they addressed a set of wide-ranging issues.
Sri Lankan entrepreneurs, the opportunities in Sri Lanka is on like a blank sheet. There's very less competition. Most categories that you pick, you have very less competition. There are now no people who are copying you left and right the next day. So there are a lot of ideas that you can simply start, do small pilot projects without worrying about competition coming and copying you. I don't think it will last for 5 more years. There will be a lot of industries coming up soon. So this is a golden time for entrepreneurs to really shine in Sri Lanka.
In order to change the system and the culture, we should change the election system in this country. Someone like me to run for an election, 20-30 million is needed. Where am I going to find that money? And even if I find that money, how am I going to pay it back? The entire financial system of this election is keeping all the members in debt to someone. The second thing is the party system. The party system has become so corrupt in most of the big parties. Young politicians don't have any voice. The last one is the people who are voting. Are they really willing to bring smart people into the parliament or the political system?
I believe the solution lies in classrooms. And I believe that we would come to a time in about 50 to 100 years when schools become irrelevant, when classrooms become irrelevant. And whatever research report you look at, what the world needs today are 2 types of people: critical thinkers and creative problem solvers.
And with that, we cross over to a short commercial break, but make sure you stay tuned for more news on the other side. Looking to steady his presidential campaign after debate performance against other Democratic contenders that hurt him in public opinion polls, Joe Biden yesterday blasted US President Donald Trump's foreign policy as erratic and extreme. In his most extensive remarks to date on foreign affairs, the former vice president said Trump had damaged America's reputation and place in the world. Republican Trump has unsettled Washington's allies by withdrawing the United States from the Paris Climate Accord, a nuclear deal with Iran, and a Trans-Pacific trade agreement, and has also threatened to leave the NATO.
Trump's view, in my view, debases our cherished democratic values. He undermines our democratic alliances while embracing dictators who appeal to his vanity. The world sees Trump for what he is: insincere, ill-informed, and impulsive, and sometimes corrupt, dangerously incompetent and incapable. Donald Trump's brand of American first has too often led to America alone, making it much harder to mobilize others to address the threats to our common well-being. From North Korea to Iran, Russia to Saudi Arabia, Trump has made the prospect of nuclear proliferation, a new nuclear arms race, and even the use of nuclear weapons more likely, not less. The historic Iran nuclear deal we negotiated blocked Iran from gaining nuclear weapons, with inspectors on the ground, international inspectors confirming that the agreement was being kept. Yet Trump cast it aside, prompting Iran to restart its nuclear program. The President of the United States' word, his or her word, is the single most valuable asset the country has. By pulling out of treaty after treaty, reneging on policy after policy, walking away from America's responsibilities, and lying about matters big and small, this president has bankrupted America's word in the world at the moment.
Turkey has received the first parts of a Russian S-400 missile defense system despite opposition from the US. The Turkish Defense Ministry said that the shipment arrived in an airbase in the capital Ankara today. The move will irk the US, which has warned that Turkey cannot have both the S-400 anti-aircraft defense system and US F-35 fighter jets. Turkey has signed up to buying 100 US F-35s and has invested heavily in the F-35 program. However, US defense officials have said that they do not want the F-35 jets to be near S-400 systems because they fear Russian technicians will be able to access the F-35's vulnerabilities. Turkey and the US are NATO allies, but Turkey has also been establishing closer links with Russia. Sri Lanka cricket team may have bowed out of the ICC Cricket World Cup, but there is a Sri Lankan presence in the finale. The International Cricket Council announced today that ex-Sri Lankan cricketer turned umpire Kumar Dharmasena will be officiating the spectacle between hosts England and New Zealand on Sunday. That's not all, as the governing body also appointed Ranjan Madugalla as the match referee. Marais Erasmus will umpire the match with Dharmasena, while Rod Tucker and Aleem Dar have also been named as officials. And with that, we conclude this edition of First at 9. Thank you for joining us and have a pleasant evening.